Well, welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. It is an absolutely pitch dark fucking morning over here. Once again, overcast, just the way they like it. Nice and easy to sleep on in. And plenty to talk about today, as Bitcoin actually does have a new range. So there we go. New range of a new opportunity now, as Bitcoin did take the short-term and medium-term range to the upside, breaking that 10,450-ish region on the last 12-hour closure, which then initiated targets higher towards 10,900, 11,000. We'll be following up on that today, of course. So with that said, let's take a look over here at the Krown application, which we found at app.krown.net, and it's free, so take advantage of it. Or don't. It's all good. Anyways, looking at the Bitcoin dominance, heading up about 0.5% from 56.5, what we saw yesterday, to a little bit over 57% today. That is very interesting because it does fit in with the narrative of the Bitcoin dominance mostly bottoming out for most of the market here, meaning that Bitcoin going up is likely to hurt alts versus Satoshis, and also Bitcoin going down likely to produce the same sort of result. It's only when Bitcoin ranges where the altcoins typically get to catch up. Now, however, there is the whole DeFi thing going on as well, so I don't even know the tickers for most of those things, so I don't really have a good read on those. But for the general crypto market, especially the coins have been trading for like the last couple of years, or 3 years actually by now, that is what the trend has been. Anyways, looking at the open interest, also very, 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 very important here as well. We headed up, from yesterday to today, we head up about 100 million in open interest, added 100 million to open interest, what I should say, alongside Bitcoin breaking the short-term, medium-term range to the upside. So adding efficacy to that move, which does mean that we, well, more or less should look for it to get hit. Anyways, looking at the fear and greed index over here as well, also taking up about 8 points, but I realized due to a comment yesterday, and thank God for that, that my face is blocking it, so sorry. but it did go up from a 39 to a 47. You can also look at it over here in the data tab. There's a nice little chart format right down around here, which you can see popping back into the same sort of range that we saw from end of July of this year. Looking at the Bitcoin global funding rate as well, we do see that it's basically par for the course, not 0.01%, which is essentially default as far as I'm concerned. Really not paying much to hold a position, also not getting paid much to hold a short position on most major derivative exchanges. Now, of course, that is an average, so there's going to be some discrepancies here and there, but for the most part, that's going to be it. So let's go to the actual price action charts themselves, and let's just pick up exactly where we left off yesterday. So we said yesterday that a 12-hour dildo closure above 10,450 would initiate that next move up to the next blue box territory. We saw that happen right around here, early day, and that was not even the right level that I'd marked off. It was 10,450 that I had right here on a 12-hour or daily closure. We just barely closed above it on the, I guess it was midday for myself, or very early in the day for those of you in the Western Hemisphere, and then, well, gravity, or I guess not necessarily gravity, but the breakout takes on over. So have we officially hit the $10,900 to $11,000 target just yet? No, not officially, but overall, I do think that it's in progress at the current moment in time. Let's actually go over here to my other bit Mexican chart, the other chart that we've been following, that I produced on a 4-hour, which will actually go back down to a 4-hour. And now that we've actually broken this region on a 4-hour, so it was either a 4-hour closure above 10.6 or a 12-hour or daily closure above 10.450. If you recall from the last few daily streams, and I would essentially just be using that area as a risk management point, or basically a point of failure for this current run, with the overall intended target somewhere actually pretty much, just a little bit higher than what we are right now. We did already get up to about 10,823. I'm curious if this is consistent amongst all major exchanges. Yeah, 10,834, so a little bit higher there. 10,840, a little bit higher there. What about Finex? Finex is going to naturally be a little bit higher. Yeah, 10,840 as well. So all major exchanges, getting around that target. I think that they very likely do have another swipe to the upside, but overall, I would be looking for a short-term pullback from this region nonetheless at 10,900 to 11,000. So perhaps another couple $100 up, and then I'd be looking for a little short-term pullback. However, this will all go by the wayside and be undone and no longer viable if, and only if, Bitcoin does crack down back below that same sort of 4-hour pivot that we had from yesterday, or 12-hour pivot that we had from yesterday. So the same areas essentially apply, 10.6 or 10.450 to the downside. If that does happen, I'd essentially be looking for Bitcoin to fill out the space back down around here again, anywhere between about 10,000 and 10,200. This horizontal right here, remember, was only relevant for the extreme short-term time frames, of which we said yesterday, if Bitcoin breaks above like 10,350 on a 4-hour closure, which it did like the next fucking dildo, then I'd be looking for a move back up to test around 10.5 or 10.6 region. We obviously already got that, and not only got that, but exceeded that. So that leads us into where we are right now. And let's take a quick look at momentum oscillators and see if they suggest anything out of the ordinary right here. 4-hour Stoke still nice and up. However, they are getting into the critical zone pretty damn crazily, but can still go quite a few bit more. we typically do find the highs of our last few runs here, going all the way back to August, so a couple months ago, within this region. So maybe another couple ticks will actually be around there, and that actually has been decently getting like some nice local highs, like this guy right here, this guy right here, this guy right here, this guy more recently right here, and then once again we kind of be getting into that range, assuming that we do test somewhere around like 11,000 bucks. Now 4-hour RSI says. And shout out to KO Checker for this one. I'm still testing it. This is a fucking great little tool. I really like it. But overall, 4-hour RSI is still more or less constructive over the long period. So it would say that any sort of short-term pullback probably does get picked up, and we probably do try again higher. However, you know my sort of style, or likely you know my sort of style if you've been here for a while. I'd still be going level by level, but mediating that with momentum oscillators like Stokes, like RSI, like the Joule, and in historical volatility percentile, all those kind of come into collusion for essentially governing, how aggressive or how conservative I should be on these, on these sorts of trades alongside breakages. And that's basically the basis of my game, actually. So looking at this right here, 4-hour RSI would be more or less fine. Don't have any major issues with it. So if we did back off of a test of like 10.9 or 11,000 officially, I do think that would get another try to the upside. Probably does try to base around 10.6 once again. That's just me speaking out of my bunghole right there, but overall, I'd be looking for a short-term pullback and then likely picked up again. And let's see what the other lower-term timeframes agree with or don't agree with. Looking at the 3-hour right here, again, constructive price action alongside the 200x benchmark average, 3-hour RSI. Again, fine, constructive, 3-hour Stokes, a little bit hot there to be fair. Can get a little bit higher, obviously. I mean, they can go infinitely high and stay in the fucking critical zone for forever, of course. But if we're going off of, what's most likely to happen, yeah, it's pretty much in line with what we said on the 4-hour as well. Let me just make sure that I'm recording and the microphone's working. And, oh, look who's up! Look who's up! It's fucking Mrs. Forks herself. Hello, how's your foot feeling now? She's not going to say anything. Nice. Okay. Well, it's like hand the microphone to you. How are you feeling? Feels good. It's like, oh, okay. All right. Well, you don't have to yell. Anyways, looking at the buy hourly, what do we see here? Actually did take the 200 simple. I mean, this is like, really cutting hairs on the ball sack right now. Looking at buy hourly Stokes already turning down. So they're coming from the same areas. You'll notice that 2, 3, and 4-hour all around the same pivots. So that is, what you should expect. Doesn't always happen like that, which is usually a sign of other more diabolical things. But for right now, looks fine. Hourly even has some bearish divergence. No, caretaker, don't take me down to zero. But I mean, probably not going to go down to zero. Maybe another short-term pullback back down to 10,650 in the short term. But again, this is just an hourly, not to be confused with like a 3-hour, 4-hour, which are even still lower time frames. Low time frames to begin with. And hey, we got a golden cross in the hourly, so we're going to the fucking moon, huh? But yeah, basically I'd be looking for a short-term pullback anywhere around this region. Do we get another swipe up to like 10.8 or sorry, 10.9 or 11,000 first? I don't have a strong opinion on that, but I do have a strong opinion on, playing to pull back relatively soon, probably this next day, probably back down to like that 10.6 pivot. As long as 10.6 holds on a 4-hour closure, I would look for this to get another try up to 11,000 and probably beyond. But again, going level by level, what essentially would my rule be here? As long as we're below 10.9 to 11,000, you can't get too excited, obviously. But if Bitcoin can break above there, either a 4-hour delta closure above 12,000, or what if we use a 12-hour? What would a 12-hour look like? A 12-hour closure above actually 10.850 probably does this as well. So we've already technically hit that area, so that actually would make sense as a pullback, and that actually probably is what we should be using right now. So maybe I pivot on that and use a 12-hour for this instead of a 4-hour. But overall, 4-hour closure above 10,850. Yes, I would look for the next moves into the lower 11,000s. Actually, technically speaking, off of the 4-hour pivot above 11,000, I'd be looking for another $300 drive towards about 11.3. Off of the 12-hour pivot, maybe a little bit more muted there. 11,150 looks about right. But all of these should naturally play with each other. Here's the problem, though: the 12-hour Stokes are getting up and getting up there quite aggressively right now. In fact, we're even quite literally right at that same trend line. Depending upon how you draw it, do you want to draw it as aggression? Do you want to draw it just anywhere in the region? You can see right here is about where it's coming in. So we typically will see counter trend pressure, not just based off of the fact that we're around the critical zone, but also based off this trend line right here as well. And that is a little bit scary. again, when we line up with the lower term timeframes as well. So not only are we seeing the lower term timeframes agree with each other, all getting momentum up to the top end, on the short term timeframes, but also the medium term timeframes seem to agree as well, with the 12-hour also in the same area, and the 10-hour I believe is already turning. Although the 10-hour could very easily turn back around to the upside here too. So I would kind of, I would kind of have a more muted response to that, to this overall, as still levels are just the way that I found to, be most safe over the longest period of time, and in this case right here, still working right now. So overall, do we see anything on historical volatility percentile to be aware of right now, or RSI? No, not quite, or at least not on this time frame right here on the 4-hour, the one that we were documenting. Still kind of see an overall contraction phase, and I believe it was the hourly that we were showing, the very long one. Yeah, here it was, and there you go, another perfect test up to that trend line. Obviously, it doesn't need to be perfect. It's fucking regression at the end of the day. But more importantly, playing out the longer term contraction phase. So whatever we're doing here is part of a greater whole, and it's likely to be resolved still around beginning of next week, or like very end of this week, somewhere around like 22nd, 23rd, 24th is where this becomes statistically likely, very, very likely to break, actually. And let me just double check on the time frame of that. Yeah, about a week from today, essentially. So whatever we're doing right here is actually part of something greater, and with the resolution of this area implied, it would actually imply a greater move overall from what we were postulating before, because before I was looking at this range correlated with this guy right here between 10.5 and 10.5 and about 10,000 even. These two blue boxes right here and right here, right? Well, obviously Bitcoin already breaking above that does suggest that this range is actually greater than what I first considered, and so the resolution of that range is going to have a much greater effect. So could it be that we're actually talking about maybe 11,000 right here and 10,000 right here? Yes, that could be it. And if that does imply a breakage around that time, then that means that we will be forced to choose a direction above 11,000, which essentially makes me full on bullish once again, on base, just the overall bias of things. Obviously, it's not just going to go straight to the fucking moon or just straight up in a straight line. No, this is not Bitcoin to 20 billion today bullshit, or Bitcoin to fucking zero today either. It's just this is silliness that just gets YouTube views and YouTube clicks. And people are kind of like left on, left to their own devices, because people get really bad conditioning, especially when you have a market like 2017, where things just go straight up. In fact, we were having a good discussion about this yesterday, I think in the program Discord. And it's like I actually feel bad for people who joined during a bull market in cryptocurrency land, or in traditional land, which has been a bull market for like the last 5 years, 10 years actually. And in just about anything, any commodity at all. The reason why I say that is because it gives you very bad conditioning, because, well, how often do parabolic blow-off tops happen? Not every day. In fact, not only not every day, but maybe like once every decade. For traditional markets, for Bitcoin land, maybe like once every 5 years or so. And probably going to get longer and longer over time as this asset gets more and more history. Anyways, right here, how did I get onto that thread? Who knows? But basically what I'm saying is that I do think that overall the range is going to be bigger. It's going to be 11,000 basically to 10,000 more likely. We know that it's at the very least not 10.5 as a ceiling right here. That was only relevant to the short-term timeframes, not whatever we're resolving right now, which still probably has a little bit more waiting time. So do we play out a range between 11,000 and 10.6 for like the next week or so? Perhaps yes. And then the same sort of resolutions, implied above or below them. So there's that. Let's go over here to the daily as well. I do think that it's very important to denote that the daily is not only testing the 21 and 55, but so far rejecting from it. Now, again, this same cross is not present on CMEs, which makes me very critical to be playing something like this, which I would not play something like this unless it is present on CMEs. But hey, it is present right now, technically on spot price action. However, I do think that the way to play it would be more or less the same, no matter which way. I'm kind of cutting it anyways. As long as we're above 10,450, especially on 12-hour or daily total closures, I don't really see any real reason or warranted reason to look for this to be played out. If we were to come back down below there, then yes, at the very least, I'd be looking for another move back down towards 10,000. And if we do start to break that area, then we could talk about targets much lower towards 9,100 and maybe even beyond there. But for right now, these are well and far away. And And while I haven't necessarily talked about the downside today, it doesn't mean that it's not relevant. It just means that we're further away from it. So first and foremost, 10.6 breaking on a 4-hour or 12-hour or daily closure below 10.450. Then yes, I would target another move back down towards the $10,000 base. Anywhere around there is fine. Probably another small bounce implied. However, if that area breaks, that's where things actually do start to get interesting once again. 10,000 on a 4-hour closure or 10,100 on a 12-hour or daily, then yes, I would be targeting an overall move down to 9,100 down here towards the former base from July of this year, which is also the penis of Craig actually now, as he is the volume profile fucking master nowadays, and for good reason. I mean, that would be your natural target just based off of that. Bounces along the way would be implied as well as 9,700 and 9,450 right here, but for now, direction or we're just not very close to doing that, so it's not all that enticing to talk about. Anyways, I want to talk about some over here on CMEs that was pointed out by one of the guys in the program chat who I really like actually. His name is Pena. Probably a lot of people here know him. I haven't actually seen him around recently because I don't know. We're probably like operating on different time frames. He's a late night cat. I'm an early morning person, and so unfortunately we don't get to convene all the time anymore. But I was reading through the chats and he called this out. He said, hey, we have actually not made a higher high on the weeklies for CMEs. And you know what? You're right. You're 100% right, Pena. You're 100% fucking right. And I feel very silly for not catching this one myself, but thank God, that's one of the beautiful things about having the program Discord for myself, because well, there's a whole bunch of other people there now who I think have really good ideas on shit, and Penny is one of them, and you know what, you are 100% right, and that is not going to be had until Bitcoin at the very least closes a weekly above 12,000 on CMEs. And, well, 12,000 probably does get it. Do you want to use 12,500? I don't think it's really necessary. But overall, 12,000 is that next major pivot. So if you're looking at CMEs right here, yes, it does look constructive. Yes, it does overall look like a chart that wants to pop back up here. And we will have, we will have a confirmed low here, by the way. Thank you to Caretaker's RSI. Which is already pretty much confirmed here, which will imply targets back up towards 11.5 actually if we do close above the 10 simple once again, as it will start to initiate hidden bullish divergence actually over here on weekly RSI. But I do think it was important to call that one out, because you know what, if you do look at it like that, and if we do start to break back down below, especially the 21, which is 10,100ish region, the same sort of pivot on the daily and 12-hour, then we could actually talk about some more significant downside. Obviously 9,100 would be a very obvious target, potential reversal there, but below that, we can start talking about moves towards the mid to low 7,000s. Obviously, now I'm getting way the fuck ahead of myself, so maybe I step back for a second here. But it is in the cards, of course. That's why I do kind of still keep a muted response to a lot of what's going on right here, and keep on going level by level with a slight bias in one direction based off of just very simple momentum oscillators, nothing too crazy. But hey, for what it's worth right now, we do have hidden bullish divergence in play between this point and this point. It's technically not confirmed, although the easy move of it, I would argue, has mostly already happened. However, if we do get the next piece of the puzzle over here with closing a weekly above 10.6, then I would extend targets probably up to like 11.3 actually. But again, weekly doesn't close today. It closes on Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern time, so it's a lot of waiting between now and then. And hey, get off there. And what do we see over here? Is there anything else of interest on the weekly? We do see weekly Stokes nosediving. They will be headed around the edge of they will be testing the edge of the bullish control zone probably on the next tick, and usually you will see some counter trend pressure there as well, but I don't see any trend lines forming here. I'm sure someone will call it this one. This one has such an aggressive slope that I would not expect it to work out, or if it did work out, I would only look for it to briefly work out. Usually you don't see those with too high of a hit rate when it's that aggressive. You want something more like a 45-degree angle or less is when they're actually most efficacious from what I've seen. But looking at this area right here, it's still in the cards on the weekly. Let's go through the 2-day and 3-day as well. 2-day popping up to test the 10 simple and 21 exponential average, which actually did get the bearish cross right there as well. But I don't look at this one likely to play out. There's a lot of things on the board here that say that this is not what's happening. 2-day Stokes are popping back up right here. Do we have any trend lines to be aware of? Yes, we do actually. We have this major trend line, and this one's a big one that we spoke about yesterday. This is a trend line that's actually connected with the lows from December 2018. That's when Bitcoin was trading at actually 3,100, and more recently over here in March 2020, that was on the coronavirus dump at about $4,000. And then once again, we've actually hit this trend line just on the last tick actually, and that's at $10,100. So pretty damn impressive, kind of marching it up here. So I'm talking about this point down here. Sorry, let's really look at it right here, down all the way fucking down here at 3150. Then again at here at 4800, and then once again right here at about a little bit above $10,000. So to me, that's saying that this is overall likely to, or more likely to, round itself out as a as a major cycle low. Maybe not major cycle low, but major low nonetheless, which then initiates, well, momentum on the same time frame, obviously, but also hidden bullish divergence on the 2-day as well, which should be shown between here and here, actually. It should definitely be working like that, as this is still in the overall context of an uptrend right here for this time frame, to be fair. And then what about the 3-day? We should have the same things available there. Actually, yes, the 3-day has gotten it. So we got 1, 2, 3 stabs, hidden bullish divergence. That's already confirmed, and we already hit the easy move of that anyways, but 3-day Stokes are coming down this whole time, right? They're coming down this whole time while Bitcoin's essentially bouncing and putting in a higher low. So putting all the puzzle pieces together, I do look at this as more likely to test the upside, probably around 11,000. And if 11,000 does break to the upside, which personally speaking, I think is more of a formality. How long does it take? Maybe could take a week, could take 2 weeks, could be today. Who fucking knows? Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the timing of these things. What matters is levels, because that's something you can document and verify and watch over time. It's like it's executable. And what do we see right here? Well, we see that in progress right now. So I do think that there is a path forwards, but the levels are still more or less the same, and do think that it can still take a little bit of time as well. So I don't think that Bitcoin's in any sort of a hurry right now. By the way, speaking of hurries, where's Craig and his goddamn dog? Where's that goddamn dog? He's been talking about this fucking dog for like months now, and I think yesterday he went to go pick it up. So I expect to see lots and lots of pictures of this thing, man. It's actually pretty cute. Anyways, okay, cool. So I think we got Bitcoin there. Let's go over and check out Mr. Buteroll. We're already 20 minutes into this bitch, so everyone's already clicked off anyways. See what Mr. Buteroll's got over here. 374.5. Very strange. Buteroll is not following Bitcoin. In fact, this is not only not strange, this is actually a little bit concerning. We would expect to see all the other market leaders follow alongside Bitcoin, but Mr. Buteroll staying below the 200 exponential moving right here is kind of a warning signal, as the death cross on the 4 hour is still very much active, although not the best one of all time here, to be fair. Actually, in fact, this is a pretty poor one. So I should actually, I take that point back. But let's see what momentum oscillators are saying right now. 4 hours up, 3 hour is up, 2 hour is down, and hourly is down. So we have a little bit of bifurcation here. It looks like a short-term pullback to me, at the very least, maybe back down to like 360 base overall. But then again, I'd really look for Bitcoin to set the tone here. I suppose if Bitcoin does break back down below 10.6, then yes, that's what I'd be looking for. Let's look at like a 12-hour daily. 12-hour looks fine though. 12-hour looks like it's actually setting a base right now, which is a lot more in line with Bitcoin. And daily, maybe another short-term move to the downside, like 366. What is this area right here? No, sorry, 367. But overall, I actually do give, I actually do favor the upside here, more or less because of what Bitcoin's doing. We also see that volatility, or historical volatility percentile, is in the expansion phase right now, coming off of this base from early July. So that would still imply some upside as well, alongside momentum turning up here too. And let's take a look at the weekly. This one's certainly not as obvious a chart though. Yeah, the weekly looks like it's trying to set in a higher low here as well, which would we have hidden bullish divergence present? Actually, no, we would not. So fair enough, there is that. Fair enough. I'd probably just look for Bitcoin to set the tone here. This just looks like a more difficult chart on the lower term time frames. But if I did call it like short term down, probably gets picked up in like the mid to upper 360s. But if that area does fail, then I'd be looking for an overall move all the way back down to like 340. Funnily enough, maybe not funnily enough for a lot of people out there. Let's get these notifications out of there. Jesus, man. And let's go take a look at Nasdaq futures and see how they're doing. Nasdaq futures looks like they want to have a short term up as well. So I was looking for some downside on this one coming into this week, and am I going to be wrong on that? Well, at the very least, short term, I'm going to be wrong on that phenomenally. We do have a 4-hour jewel buy signal right here, not super strong, but a pretty damn good one, definitely playable. And that just happened actually out of this base right here. So at about 11,200, we're currently trading 11,300ish region. I do think that this will get another official stab up here towards 11.4. Does that help out the bigger picture though? Well, no, actually not, because it's still lower highs as long as we're below about 11.5. But I do think that short term it has some upside here. Let's take a look at the daily and weekly after that. Yeah, daily would be hitting the 21 at that price point. And here's what I could say. I would get bullish for another short-term move if we do retake that region, or if Nasdaq retakes that region, better said, and look for a move actually all the way back up here towards 11,850. Yeah, call me crazy, but I do think that that's what I'd be looking towards. I'm going to get rid of all of this chart right here just because like it's way too convoluted, although it was my most epic chart, calling the high at 12,450-ish region thus far. But I can always just refer back to those videos for sentimental values. But yeah, you know, this is a range that I look at right now. If that does break the upside, I'd be looking for a move back up here essentially. Yeah, somewhere around there would be fine. But for now, just very short term up, and I'd probably be looking for a pushback. What was the exact area, like 11.4 or 11.5? No, 11.4. Yeah, 11.4. And if we do put in a lower high right here, oh baby, it's back down to 10.9 base, and I'd be looking for a push overall lower as well. You know, the problem is though is that all these markets are going to more or less move together with each other. So if Nasdaq moves up here, I'd more or less be bullish on Bitcoin again. If Nasdaq moves down here, I'd more or less be looking for Bitcoin to break down as well. Which one's the easier chart to read? Well, let's go to the source. Let's go to Dixie. All right, Dixie, what are you doing over here? Coming down short term. This one looks like it wants to set another base somewhere down around about 92.25. I do still think that this is overall a bottoming area right here. I do think that this is going to be finding its lows over the next few months, but that means that we still probably are going to come back down here. So if we do have some short-term down, then that means that most major markets are going to be moving up. At least if it can move up, it will move up. That is that is just the easiest environment for it to do such. So yeah, you know, we're seeing momentum oscillators turn down right here. We're seeing daily RSI lose the exponential and also have a much more bearish posturing just in general, and breaking the 21 plus 10 simple at the same time, not necessarily the picture of health and fitness. Yeah, I do think that this one comes back down here. Okay, what else do we have? Let's go look at euro dollar. Do the rounds of euro dollar today. Once again, popping back up to 119. I think that it's going to officially test 119, even 119.3, 119.5 region. Still the same thing to say here overall, though. But it is looking like it is going to have a chance. We do have 1, 2, 3 stabs of hidden bullish divergence right here. Back up to the tops of the range we go, which is in progress right now. Daily momentum oscillator is turning up at the same time. Daily jewel even bouncing off the fib right here too. So, you know, is this going to have a chance to break out to the upside? Fucking goddamn it! Hopefully not. Don't do it. You're gonna wreck my dollars. I live in Europe, and I still have my money in mostly dollars. Not good. Very not good. So you know, if we do start to break 119.5 on like a weekly closure, I have to target 121 and 1.25 after that. Still remains to be seen. Obviously, I think that this can still play off for, you know, another week or so. I don't think it's a huge hurry right now. But if the dollar really starts to crumble here, if it really starts to come down to those levels, well, that's where I'd be looking towards. What else do we want to check out? I think it's going to be a little bit of a shorter video today. My eyes are tired as fuck. I got a full night of sleep, but I don't feel like I did. I feel very tired. Gold popping back up again. I think we set a target of $2,000 yesterday. I'd be sticking with that. You know, while it doesn't necessarily look like an obvious one right here, technically speaking, this has been an uptrend the whole way through. I mean, these are still higher lows. There's your low. There's your higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low. There's no real reason to be bearish on this one as it is. The weekly looks like it wants to pop out a little bit more. Yeah, I'd still say $2,000, which is what I believe I said yesterday. Momentum oscillator is going to be doing anything of interest here. Not really on the weekly. On the daily, we're seeing daily Stokes pop back up, to be fair. You know, not something too crazy, and obviously hidden bullish evidence, which a good amount of that is played out. But I do think that there's another short-term stab up towards about $2,000. All right, what else do we want to look at? Mr. Link, what are you doing, Link? Coming down, yes, versus Satoshis. Things will be getting boo-caked right now. probably does come back down and test around 105,000 satoshis. So I'm gonna be wrong about my read the other day, looking for a move back to 135,000 satoshis. But we have a very interesting cycle right now, as Bitcoin going up is going to actually hurt the alts versus satoshis, and Bitcoin going down is also not going to help them either, it seems, as we do see daily stokes wanting to turn back down around. But I would be looking for a short-term bounce for this region right here. However, how does a weekly look? Weekly's a little bit more in trouble. Weekly could come all the way down to 90,000 satoshis actually, especially seeing as momentum is against it right now here too. And we do have this trend line, admittedly, but this is very, very, very far away. Yeah, something like this. I'll be coming around the neutral zone, so that could be another few weeks actually. So yeah, I'd be looking for an overall greater pullback here, I suppose, and I'd imagine that that's going to be the case for most altcoins. Let's go take a look at the car dealers over here, and the Cardano car dealers, and what do we think? Yeah, still has some more downside. I do think that it will officially test 830 before putting in any sort of a meaningful bounce. I mean, this is just pathetic price action right here, just down, 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 bleed, bleed, bleed. There we go. Cue Lexington Steel. Oh. And in your face, my car dealer friends. Now, I don't say that. I say that with love. Obviously, I'm not like, I've never cheer someone like losing money. That's ridiculous. That's just fucking. That's actually like kind of sick. But seriously, no, these charts are just fucking goddamn awful, man. Like, all jokes aside, like there's. I imagine that most altcoins that have been around for the last 3 years will look some variation of this, just lower highs and lower lows. Of course, something like maybe even Mr. Budol versus Bitcoin might stick out. Nope, still lower highs and lower lows over the last 3 years. Still even has another lower high right here, actually. What do we think about this one? Probably does have a short-term move back down to like, what is this, 3,350,000 base. And then I'll be looking for a small bounce there. Yeah, daily looks a lot more toppy. So short term down, probably bounce off that region right around here, and then I actually do think this one does come down further. What else we want to look at? I think that's pretty much it for like a lot of cryptos that I even do want to look at, which is very few and far between. We look at Link versus US dollar. Let's look at it on Binance over here. Looks very similar to the Satoshi chart actually. But I'd be hesitant to be bearish on this if I'm going to be bullish on Bitcoin. So I just kind of defer to whatever direction Bitcoin chooses. Anyways, back on to Bitcoin. I did forget to talk about my secondary charts over here. What do we have? We did test officially the 20 simple on the daily, and so far rejection from it. First pass is going to be pushback, and yeah, it does kind of suggest that we will pop back down and test around like 10,550 or 10,600ish region, but that does not imply a break, and that actually kind of solidifies that area, at least in my opinion, as a good management point. As long as we're above there, I'm generally looking for it to get picked up alongside MACD also having a positive cross on and getting the histogram back above the 0 read. Which is coming alongside of a breakage of the 10,500ish region. So what we want to see now is we want to see follow through, and we want to see the next closure above the 20 simple right here, and that would actually set this up for a nice base and a move into the low 11,000s essentially. So that's what I'd be watching from here. Actually, this is the lovely thing about these secondary charts, is that they give me a slightly different look on the plays that I typically make, and they can sometimes show you things that I don't get from my usual tools. Not always. It doesn't. It actually happens kind of few and far between, but when it does happen, you get something like this. And so this is saying, hey, pay attention, because we are getting on the regular tools as well, but there's a lot of competing narratives going on right there. These ones actually make it quite clear. MACD turning up, we break the level right there, testing around the 20 simple right now. That'd be the next kind of nail in the coffin. And so if we do overtake that on the next daily closure, yeah, I'd basically be looking for a move into like the shallow 11,000s. Okay, how long have we been doing this video? 32 minutes. Well, I suppose since this video is going to take fucking forever to upload, because I've like actually made my my criteria for uploading a lot better, so hopefully the quality is better, then it's going to take a long time, but hopefully it should overall be a better quality. I think I'll probably cut it off here, quickly go over the last of the last ranges, and I'm just generally looking for Bitcoin to float back up towards like 10,900, 11,000 bucks. Short term, I do think that we have a little bit of back down to like 10,550 or 10,600ish region. But as long as we don't close a 4-hour dildo below 10.6 or a 12-hour or daily above, below about 10.5, we'll call it, I look for those areas to get bought back on up and try again higher. The next thing that I want to see to continue into the lower 11,000s, like insinuating an 11,300 target, would be a daily closure above the 20 simple on these Challenger bands, which is currently hovering at just below 10,800-ish region. So that's what I want to see today in order to know another like $500 or so of continuation. For right now, I think it is just slow and sluggish in the early morning hours, and that's my cue to wish you again the best of the best and the happiest of the happiest. Hope I got that one right. I feel like I've been missing a lot recently too. So hopefully that is well received. And as always, man, take care, guys, and until next time.